Hello and welcome to the Voice Vibe. My name is Philippe Hall. I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming a special guest. Her name is Madelyn Soleil. Madeline, according to her family, was born singing. Her parents like to say she never cried, she merely practiced her belting. Convinced she was a missing Disney princess, Madeline sang every waking moment. As she aged, music became therapy for her, an artful and effective way to cope with growing up and growing depression. At the age of 14, she found Philippe Hall and through him found her voice. Once a shy lover of music, she became a mostly fearless musician and advocate. By the age of 17, Madeline had written and recorded her debut album, Weeds and Wildflowers. After graduating from high school in Arizona, she moved to Provo, Utah, where she became a full-time songwriting teacher and intern at June Audio Recording Studio. She's currently finishing her second album and preparing to marry her sweetheart, Carson Hansen, in August. That's some pretty exciting news. So welcome, Madeline. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. It's good to see you. And for everybody that has been waiting on us to start the live stream, just had a couple little technical glitches and we're
Mhm.
ready to go now. So it's good to see you. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's a special relationship we have. Um, and I just think it's amazing what has happened for you in the last 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
So maybe you could start off with I want to dig a little deeper because your family says you've always been singing. Were you aware of
Mhm.
that growing up, that you were singing all the time?
I think I think I was cuz I was always drawn to like the movies and TV shows that were centered around music. So I knew that I enjoyed it, and I think because of that I was somewhat aware that it was part of me, but I didn't always know that it was something that I wanted to create. I just thought that I was like pulled to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely have always been singing and loving music.
That's a good description, feeling pulled towards something. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's also, I can relate to that. I just felt pulled toward performing, toward studying, singing, performing. It just was always a pull, and I just followed that. And that, well, it led me all around the world to do things that I never expected doing, just like having a podcast and a live stream about singing. I would have never imagined, it wasn't even on my screen as an
Mm-hmm.
adolescent.
Yeah.
Not at all, really. So what I was in Arizona and I was teaching some master classes there and also some private lessons, and you just showed up and I didn't know who you were, and you were there with your mom, and we had a singing lesson, and then you went on your way, and but something happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? It seems to be quite like a rocket launch.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I think at that point, I'd never really taken myself seriously in that way. And my parents, for Christmas, they got me like, it was my Christmas present, was this lesson with you. And I was so excited, but I was so scared because I was like, this is a professional. I'm just a kid. I just like to sing. But I think in that lesson with you, you took me seriously, and you made me, in a sense, you like made me into something because I didn't have those skills before to like belt and all the things that we learned just in that one lesson. But what really changed was I started to take myself seriously because you did, and I looked up to you and respected you, and obviously you knew more about the industry and the art at that time than I ever did. And so that's just, I think that's the spark that kind of was ignited that day.
Yeah, it was really fun to hear about that also from your mom
Mhm.
later, just saying from that moment you walked out and said, "This is what I'm going to do with my life." And she
Mhm.
was really like, she felt really positive about it, but like, wow,
Mhm.
okay, Madeline knows what she's going to do. And a lot of kids say that. A lot of people say that. People say that to me all
Yeah.
the time. But
Mhm.
now, 5 years later, going from first voice lesson as what were you, a freshman in high school?
Mhm.
And now since then, it's been, yeah, that rocket has launched. And you've released an album. You are preparing to release your second album. And arguably are doing things in the industry already that I never did. I did things in the industry on different sides, but you're doing
Mhm.
things now that I haven't done before, and that's really exciting. So I thought it would be just wonderful to share your story and talk to our audience um, about your journey, because a lot of people have the dream to sing. A lot of people have the dream to become a singer-songwriter, and you have done that, and
Mhm.
you're still at the beginning of your journey arguably, but you're much further already than most people ever get, and I think that's really exciting. So when we were talking about preparing for this and having this discussion, you wrote a lot of interesting things of what
Mhm.
things you'd like to talk about. So things about mental health, music as therapy, navigating the industry as a young female, importance of finding your voice and confidence through music, and wanting to share about what you love most about recording, teaching, songwriting, and it's just very fascinating. So I didn't know a lot of things. So tell us about, I mean, I think it's a real thing. As a teenager, I experienced, like every teenager, ups and downs. Got all these chemicals running wild inside of our bodies. It's inevitable that you're going to feel depressed here and there, but you wrote specifically mental health and music as therapy. So tell us a little bit about how what your experience was, because I think sometimes this can really shut down people, and you found a way to move through, forward, and beyond. So
Mhm.
yeah, share your experience with us if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because my family is very open about mental health things, and a lot of it is genetic. So I was kind of born with depression and anxiety and some of these clinical disorders, but um, I was treated really young. Although there's always kind of like this missing piece where I had medication, I had therapy, and I had all these things, but I didn't have like my own, I guess, like way to regulate myself and deal with it in the moment. And then as I progressed into this career and into this like just snowball of music, I found that it was like that missing piece. It gave me what I needed to heal myself in real time and in real situations. And so I think one of the biggest parts of that is just songwriting. That I'd say is the most like prominent of the healing factors because I can just sit there and I can just like pour my soul out, and it's just me and my guitar, and I can decide who hears it. I can decide if it's just a song that I just sit on or if it's a song that I share, and I can tell my story and I can use that to hopefully help people, and that is a really healing thing in depression. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you get past the resistance? And what I mean by that is even a lot of adults, a lot of teachers, a lot of young kids feel like, who am I? What do I have to say? Why does
Mhm.
anybody care? Who's going to listen?
Mhm.
I'm really not that great. what do I
Yeah.
know? There are people that are smarter, more experienced. How do you get past that barrier and just say and start believing that what you have to say actually has a value?
Yeah, that's a really good question because that is very real. I mean, no matter like at every stage in this career that I've developed in, I have felt that, and I have sat there and had those conversations with myself where I'm like, okay, am I really deserving of this? But I think one of the best ways that I combat that is just I understand that it's not really about where I am. It's not really about what I've done and what credibility I have. It's just that I am a human being, and the reality of my mission is just to give that sense of like vulnerability and just like safety to people where they can just feel with somebody and relate to somebody. And I think because I am not credible in all these things, and I do not see myself as this like high and mighty, I don't know. I I feel like I have a better opportunity to relate to people, and I just remind myself of that, and I think that's what helps, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're finding, I think everybody has to find their, sounds strange that we need a justification or
Mhm.
a reason, but we do. Not very few people are just like, hey, what I have to say is the best.
Mhm.
I know everything. And
Yeah.
very few people are like that. But the reality is, I do try and talk to this about singers, with singers, and also with voice teachers. There are a lot of voice teachers that don't want to, they don't feel qualified enough to share things. I think the most important thing as an artist is your greatest capital is you. It's the way you see the world is completely unique. And in my conversations with other great educators and coaches, whom I respect a lot, it always comes down to after you learn the technique, the vocal technique serves the purpose of technique in anything, in art, in sports. It's to free you up to express. And if
Mhm.
you don't ever get to the expression point, you're missing the whole point. And just learning to understand that the way you see the world is unique, and your every single experience in your life has been filtered by your unique perception. So your view of the world is unique, and just sharing that can inspire so many people. I don't mean to do like a movie plug, but did you see In and Out 2 yet? My daughter
I
loves that
haven't.
movie, In and Out, and the first one's so cute.
Mhm.
And In and Out 2 is all about being a teenager and what you go through, but it's great. It talks about belief systems, and they have these great visual images, like every single experience. So basically, spoiler alert, the way they solve the problem is instead of filtering out all the bad experiences, they include everything she's ever experienced, and it's not perfect, and it's not all pretty, and that brings the core essence of the individual and that unique perspective of the world. And I think it is so valuable to share that. It's inspiring. Um, and you said that the inspiration for a lot of your first album was real life and
Mhm.
struggles and just being a teenage girl that I don't think is, I think it's probably more difficult to be a teenage girl today than it's ever been. You could say that for teenage boys as well. But, now you've got social media in your face all the time. And when I was growing up, hey, there was television and there were magazines, but we didn't have social media. Nobody's walking around with an app and a smartphone. Now you have that in your face all the time. So what did you what were the inspirations for your first album? And I want to also get to your concert, but the
Mhm.
launch concert. What did you want to communicate with this album?
I think I just wanted to kind of unlock this like wall that's been put up between like us and our reality and social media. Like there's this wall where we filter ourselves and we edit ourselves before we show ourselves. And I wanted to be able to say like no, like this is just me. These are my relationship experiences and my traumas and my these are my insecurities. This is how I look at myself, and this is why that's hard, and this is why that's good. And I wanted to be real with people. I wanted from the beginning to just be honest and just be myself and just create like this community where people who listen to my music and people who know me and are walking this with me can do the same and feel empowered in that way. I just wanted to really have a deeper connection with people that was real.
And you decided to donate the proceeds of your premiere concert to an organization. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? How did you come to that
Yeah.
decision? I mean, most artists are like, "Oh my gosh, this cost me so much time and money. I need to just make some money back." And you didn't. You're like, "No, I'm giving it away." It's like, "Whoa, that's a big decision. That's very unusual." So, what
Yeah.
what what guided you to do that?
Yeah. Well, so I was just playing every gig I could for a long time, and I stumbled into one time that was it was specifically for teen mental health. So they had all these local um, teenage artists like myself, and we all sang songs and performed to just advocate for this cause. And there were several foundations that showed up and representatives for them, and they talked about what it was that it was for. And there was one called the Alexander Neville Foundation, and it was this mom, and her son had passed away due to fentanyl poisoning, and she talked about how much mental health matters in that cause and how they go hand in hand. And I think she's doing a lot of good, and I've seen that development there, and it's just such a beautiful thing. But after that show, that gig, I came to be really good friends with that family, and I just I grew to love them so much. And when it came to my concert, I always knew like I knew it wasn't for me. I knew it was kind of about me in a sense. Like it's my album, it's my music, it's my stories, but I knew it wasn't for me. And so when I started thinking about, the income of the concert and what was going to come as a result of it for me, I was like, I don't need that. Like I don't need that kind of validation. I don't need that to pay it off. Like I had worked and done every show and all these things to have the money to record and to put on this concert. And so I didn't need, like, I wasn't in debt. And so I was just like, I want to give this to somebody. And I really pondered that, and I really considered that. And my mind just kept going to the Alexander Neville Foundation because I respected and loved that family so much, and I believed in the cause that they were fighting for. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, sounds like you were again pulled towards that. It's a great
Mhm.
musical a song in musicals called "Pulled."
Mm.
I don't know if you've heard of "Pulled in a New Direction."
Yeah.
It's
I don't
very
I
cool.
couldn't tell you what one that's from, but I do recognize it.
Yes, I wanted to jump to um, jump into also your advice, because what
Mhm.
you've done is it's incredible. It's amazing. It's inspiring. People, there's a saying that's very true. You overestimate what you can do in a couple of months, and drastically underestimate what you can do in 4 to 5 years. And at the beginning, we had a voice lesson. You walked out, said, "This is what I want to do with my life." could you have imagined, I mean, you did imagine, but I mean, in this short amount of time that it would happen quickly for you?
No, I really didn't. I really didn't. I thought, I knew it was my purpose. I knew it was who I was like I needed to do this. I needed this to be my life, but I didn't realize how like the world would give back to me in that. I didn't realize how it would all work out like this. So it's just been so surreal and humbling and just like incredible every step of in between, and just looking back at how I felt about myself to begin with, and how almost like I I didn't have like the tools and the skills to make this happen, I think, innately.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see how I made those.
Yes. You have some really, really valuable advice and very, very wise advice. I don't know if you realize that. You may not. You might be just sharing your experience, but in our the conversation, I recognize a lot of things. What you just said is part of it, right? If you wait
Mhm.
until you have all the tools ready, you might miss your opportunity. And we talked about the saying, fake it till you make it, that we both
Mhm.
really don't like that. But but there's a lot of truth in it. It's not be a
Mhm.
fraud.
Mhm.
That's not it. It's that you have to go. You have to do your best until you make it. You have to acquire these skills. And you're not ever going to be 100%. You probably still don't feel 100% perfect and ready. And you never will. I don't. I'm still learning. And as long as you're learning, you realize I don't know everything. I can still get better. And so if you wait until you think you know everything, you've got all the skills, it's going to be too late. So let's
Mhm.
talk about some advice. Some advice if somebody wants to become a singer-songwriter, what should they do? And
I think,
this is what I thought was
yeah.
so wise. So I want on your part, so I want to get back to it.
Mhm.
What should you do? Anybody that's listening, if they want to really become a singer-songwriter, what do they need to do?
Yeah. I think honestly, the whole battle and the whole like the career and whatever that you're creating is very much mental. So I think the first step is taking out the word become, because like the phrase fake it till you make it, which we obviously discussed and don't agree with, like maybe the wording or the thought process behind what it means to people. But I think a better way to think about it is claim it until you become it. So if you want to be a singer songwriter, you say, I'm someone who sings and I'm someone who songwrites. And this is where I'm going with that. And you claim that from the beginning. And it's not this it doesn't have to be this thing where you only are what you've accomplished. It's you are what you're striving for. You are what your intentions are. You are what your character is along the way. And I think that's so much more valuable and that's so much more sustaining in that process of developing a career in that.
That's really cool. I like it. Claim it until you become it.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. All right, there. I want a song. I want a song. It's called "Claim It Until You Become It." It's my
Yeah.
song wish. Put on your long list. Um, yeah, it's so important, and that's why I think you've had success. It's a shift. You've got to.
Yeah.
This is if you wake up and you say, "This is who I am. I am a singer. I am a songwriter." And you know you're not complete, but if you are that, you're going to be on your journey to becoming your best version of that. But if you're waiting to become it before being it, you never really you don't go through the journey of being.
Yeah.
How does
It's
it help?
true.
How did that help you to, I mean, what did you do to claim it? Would you just put it in your bio? Did you put it in your mental bio? You'd say, "Hi, I'm Madeline. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter." What did you do? How did you
I
own it?
Yeah, it's a whole thing because there's the step of identifying that and like saying, okay, I know this is true, and then there's like implementing that, you know. And I think for me, what I did was, um, people would always ask me, like at school and stuff, because I would post about my music, and it started just little YouTube clips of me singing little covers and things, but people would ask me about it, and I took that as the first opportunity to claim it, right? Like I would say like, yeah, thank you. I am doing this. And it wasn't like this prideful thing. It was just claiming it. And I think that doesn't take like all this like confidence and whatever. It's just saying, yeah, that is what this was. That is me doing this, you know? And then I think from there it just, I guess I sort of grew and expanded in that, and just where I allowed myself to be. Because for a long time I was like, I don't think I could ever step foot in a professional recording studio. I don't think I could ever perform for this many people. Like, I'm not good enough for that. And then I had to sort of shift in that way too, where it was like, I am this. I am a singer, I am a songwriter. I am someone with a message and someone with a story, and that that shouldn't limit me to this. That doesn't mean I'm incapable or unworthy of expansion. And then I could open my mind and like get out of my own way to get into the studio and to get in front of more people. And it just, it was very much mental first. It was always mental first, but I think I sought opportunities to implement it, I guess,
Yes.
more physically, and
I love that.
that's
I
kind
like
of
that
what I did.
you keep saying it was mental first, right? It was,
Mhm.
people talk about visualization or being mindful, but it is. And when first time I speak with any singer on a consultation call, first thing I say is the first thing you have to do to change anything about the way you sing is change the way you think about singing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
because singing is thought controlled, so it's mental first, right? You have to have create that mind shift. And I love that you keep saying don't have to have any qualifications to do that. You have
Mhm.
to, it's something you do in your own mind. And I ask you a question: if somebody came up to you and said, I want to become a great singer, what should I do? You said, ask yourself these questions. I don't know if you remember the three we talked about, but I wrote it down because I thought they're
Mhm.
very profound. The
Yeah.
first question was, why? What do you mean by why?
I think by why I just mean like what is it to you, you know? Like what do you expect from it? And what do you hope to do with it? You know, like those kind of like intentional questions. Like there's there's something deeper to the why. I think it's like, what does that mean to you? What is, you know, because it
Yeah,
does it, as you expand in your career, more eyes are on you and more people have opinions about you and know of you and all these things. But what are you gonna do with that? Like, what are you gonna do when you have that? Why do you want that?
yeah, it's really profound. I don't know if you're aware of it, but this is
Hmm.
a fundamental question that across the board in so many industries and in just personal success, finding your core motivation. It's the why. Why do you do anything you do? If you don't know, you have no purpose. You have no direction. And then the next thing you said was walk it, own it. What does that mean?
I think it goes back to that, just claim it until you claim where you're gonna be, right? Like,
Mm,
I think just walking it and owning it is, if you are, if the extent of your experience and your practice is just being in your room and writing songs and singing them for your mom, which that was me for a really long time. If that's where you are, then you're a songwriter. You're an artist. You're a creator. You're creative. And I think it's understanding that. It's claiming that. It's walking out into the world and giving yourself that credit. That's a big part, is give yourself credit along the way and not expect that at a certain point you're gonna deserve it and you're gonna become this. You're gonna wake up and you're gonna have enough followers or enough streams to be an actual artist. You're an artist if you create art, you know?
Yeah, that's so important because yeah, insecurity and self-confidence and self-doubt, they're what kills creativity. So I love that you
Mm-hmm.
say you are it, so claim it and own it. One thing you said um, just a minute ago is also what is the reason, the why? What is the reason? Because not everybody's going to be your best friend and cheer you on that you meet along your way, right? Some people are, not
Yeah.
everybody's going to like your music. There's going to be setbacks. So
Mm-hmm.
tell us about tell us about that. You know,
Yeah.
you mentioned being a female, in the industry. You said navigating the industry as a young female. So there's good and there's bad. And
Mm-hmm.
how did you do it? Something just, and maybe you can talk about as you're talking to us about that. Just one thing you said that I thought was so wise and so important, and maybe we'll get to that in a minute, is just I had the feeling the entire time you were focused on enjoying the journey of being humble and just learning slowly everything you needed to learn. You weren't in a rush. You weren't trying to say, I know how to do this already. You just took the time to learn every skill you need over time. And I just got the vibe from you that you enjoyed it. And that was a part
Mm-hmm.
of claiming it and owning it. So how did that help you navigate the industry?
Yeah, I think it, it definitely was difficult. There were a lot of things, like, for example, in high school, because that's when it all sort of snowballed, and um, I, I was very much not treated normally after I jumped into this career. Like, it seems like everyone who knew me either, like, hated me and wanted to, like, tear me down out of jealousy or out of judgment, I don't know, but they disliked me or they loved me and they wanted to like put their name next to mine. And I remember always sitting there and being like, why is no one just normal to me? Like I have acne like you do. I'm not a teenager like you. But I just felt so like like separated from people. And I think it was just hard. It was hard to connect on a personal level once I made it my mission to connect on this like broader, deeper level. Because then it was almost like I wasn't a person to people in a lot of ways. And that sounds dramatic, but that's what it felt like at the time. But I think I combated that really just by, like you said, like enjoying the journey and enjoying the steps that I was taking and acknowledging those and planning my next ones, thinking what's next? What have I done? What do I have to be proud of and what do I have to accomplish next? And that's what kept me out of my own head and out of like the drowning in those opinions and in that crazy dynamic in high school
Yeah.
is just yeah, it's just that mentality in that.
Well, it's good training because that's life in the entertainment industry.
Mhm. It is. Yeah.
And I'm sympathetic, but there are a lot of artists, and you're well aware, and so are many other people, that succumb to their depression, that compensate with drugs and extreme
Mhm.
lifestyle, and it's easy to do. I mean, I've done so many premieres and openings. I've done 4,000 paid performances or more, and you work really hard, and then you have this big moment of celebration, and it's exciting. and the next day you still wake up in your bed and you still have to do medial things. You're still part of this world, but some people don't treat you like part of the world, or
Mm-hmm.
they're because now you represent something that they have a hard time identifying with, and maybe they're intimidated, maybe they're jealous, maybe they want to jump on your coattails, maybe they want to shoot you down because they didn't have the courage to do it, or maybe just as simple that they just you just annoy them. I can't speak
Mm-hmm.
to that person. They just bother me. There's so many
Yeah.
reasons out there, but it is reality, and it's how it goes. So in the industry too, you're in some people feel more in competition, some are more aggressive, some people feel like they'll get ahead if they put you down. I mean, I've experienced all of that. It can be very, very intense. And I didn't know what the word malicious meant until I'd been in the industry for a little while, where people actually get joy out of trying to slow you down. And it's so bizarre
Yeah.
to me because it's not at all a part of me. So you have this mini high school bubble that
Mm-hmm.
were already experiencing that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's tough. It's tough on any teenager. And now let's move on. So let's say, because you did it, you have claimed what you are. You are you are already that, and you're becoming more of that. So congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment, and you deserve to be congratulated. Um, if I wanted to release an album, what do I do? How do I do that, Madeline? I got an album. I've been writing songs all my life. Um, how do I do that nowadays?
The coolest part about just like just thinking about how to go about that is that anyone can do it. Like it we really think like all these artists and the charts and stuff like, oh, they must have all this crazy gear, and a lot of people do, but you don't need it. Like even if you just use GarageBand, which I think everyone's probably got it on their phones whether they want to admit it or not. um, like it's enough. It's the process of just creating that's really what makes it valuable, and it's the effort of sharing that creativity that's what makes it worth releasing. So it doesn't come down to like, is my gear expensive enough? Can I afford the studio someone else uses or not? It's just, is it is it your art? And if the answer is yes, which it probably is, then it's worth it. And there are a lot of ways to go about that. There are all these platforms that you send your songs in and then they distribute it to all the different music platforms. And it's so easy now. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, and more people could be taking advantage of that. So, it's important to understand it. It's not this big like mountain of a thing that only certain people deserve to climb. It's just creating art. It's just other steps to creating art, and it's really simple.
It's amazing you say that,
Mhm.
because I think I've never heard anybody say it's really simple. So, but
Mhm.
that I think is a key to your success so far. And you're just the beginning of your
Mhm.
journey, so I expect there'll be a lot more coming. But that right there, and that there's something in the way you view this that I think is special, that is valuable to communicate to other people. And
Mhm.
that I've never heard anybody say it's simple. But you just
Mhm.
keep saying it's so easy nowadays. It's so simple. You just have to do this. You have to do that. Okay. So I think that comes into the managing your expectations. And once again, your core belief that the whole purpose is the creative process, and enjoying the whole creative process instead of being overwhelmed by it. And if you have these expectations, that they'll crush you if they're not realistic. So how do you manage your expectations, remain ambitious, not saying, oh, I want 5 people to listen to my song. No, everybody wants 5 million people to listen to their song. But how do you manage the expectations and enjoy the creative process, and so that it becomes this enjoyable, easy thing to
Mm-hmm.
do?
Yeah, I think the key is separating your expectations from yourself and from like the reality of your work. So I say that recording in that process is simple, and it's simple because it's accessible, but it's also complicated because of, the deeper you get into it, and the depending on the studio you work in and the producers you work for, there are other people involved, and it's hard to collaborate in schedules, even just to make collaboration in music happen. But um, I think as far as expectations go, it all just comes down to saying, I expect myself to uphold this character. I expect myself to maintain the humility that I have found. I expect myself to not give up. I expect myself to be courteous to the people I work with. I expect myself to, it's it's expecting things of your character and not expecting, like, I expect that this will be easy. I expect that this will be that other people will think this of me when I do this. I expect that I'm going to feel this way about myself afterwards. It's just the things you can expect are the things you can control, and everything else it has to not be for everything else, because that's not dependable, really, in this industry. Like, sometimes your music will flop and sometimes it will blow up, and it's just, that's not really truly up to you. What is up to you is who you are when it does and when it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's very inspiring. That's very inspiring. I'm feeling very inspired. Hope everybody else is feeling inspired to just implement this. Continue to implement it in your life. Expect what you can expect of yourself, and this applies in everything. I'm a big dreamer. I'm a creative person, so my dreams are not small. They're like world-sized dreams.
Mhm.
And having those kind of expectations can be crushing when it doesn't pan out, and sometimes it doesn't.
Mhm.
Sometimes you do everything right, and then it's like, and you're like, back to the drawing board. And if you don't
Mhm.
expect, I expect myself to learn. I expect myself to get better each time. I expect myself to contribute something to the world that is beyond me. Because, like you said, it's not just about me, what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I've discovered that my influence was so much more meaningful than I thought. It was
Mhm.
much more meaningful than just for me. And now just touching people's lives. I did not expect, and I could not expect Madelyn Soleil to walk in the door, have one lesson, and then leave expecting to do this for the rest of her life. That had nothing to do with me. I was just there and expecting myself to do my best work, and then look what happens. And you're doing the same thing, just
Mhm.
through your music now. And also, I think this is a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And thank you so much for being here. You're doing an amazing job. Love your attitude. You're just really on track. So keep going. Keep staying true to yourself, claiming it, owning it, being it, enjoying that creative process. Tell us a little bit of promotion for for your for your music. If somebody wants to listen to your music, which you should do. Her music's great. I just shared it
Mhm.
with a friend this morning. I'm like, yeah, her music's really good. I really enjoy it. Where do they go? How do they find you?
I'm on Spotify and Apple Music and like all the streaming platforms, thanks to the distributing companies that I plugged in. Well, I guess I didn't label any of them, but there are a lot of them anyways.
Yeah.
You can You can stream my music just by looking up Madelyn Soleil on any of them, or Weeds and Wildflowers is the name of my album that's
I
out right
love it.
now.
Yeah, and if you're doing a post on Instagram or something, guess what? You can just put in Madelyn Soleil and pick a cool song. There's a lot of really beautiful, beautiful music. So congratulations on that. Tell us about your album. When's it coming out? Any news? Any secrets?
Yeah,
Promotion we can do? Don't you have a
yeah.
concert in a couple days or like 2 days?
Yeah, I'm playing a little show with some local bands, and I'm really excited about that. So, um, but yeah, I do have an album in the works right now. I don't have a release date that I can announce, just because I have this anxiety of announcing it and then it not working out, because there are all these uh,
Yeah.
factors that go into it. But it is coming. Although I do have a single, just one song that is coming out July 17th, and that one's really exciting. I actually was at the studio really late last night, just working on that and finalizing that and polishing that with some of the artists and producers and people that I have in my circle, and it's really coming together. I'm really excited about it. But
Exciting. So
yeah,
if people want to follow
just
you, how do they follow you so that they can know when your music's released?
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I suck at TikTok because TikTok is just it's harder for me. But you can follow me there. It's just Madelyn Soleil. I think there's an underscore at the end because I tried to make an account when I was like 12 or something, and it just I took that from myself early on and now can't log into it. But anyways, I'm also on Instagram, and that one's just Madelyn Soleil, which I would recommend more.
So
But
you're more active on Instagram. All right. Well, so we'll
yeah.
we'll follow you on Instagram and keep our eyes out elsewhere. Well, I'll put some other details in the description, so on YouTube, so you can connect with Madeline, follow her, give her some likes and support. She has great music and wonderful advice. And if you ever want to reach out to her, I have actually sent some young clients to her that wanted to get into the industry and they love working with you. So, congratulations on that. Thanks so much for being here, Madeline.
Yeah, thank you, Philippe. This has been really fun.
Yes, it has. We'll have to do it again. Have a great day.
hmm You too.
Bye.
Bye.